Hello there, YouTubers. This is Gus Estacio again from Healing X Outreach Radio. You can listen to us on iTunes, subscribe to us, or go to our website and check out our archives at www.blogtalkradio.com/healing, the letter X, outreach, Healing X Outreach. Just this past Saturday, we had a debate with Brian Garcia and Andrew Lara. Brian Garcia wrote the book, Can I Get a Witness? He's a former Jehovah Witness and former Watchtower apologist. He was known for defending the Watchtower Society's teachings on YouTube under I think the handle was New Age Gamer. And he, of course, came out of the Watchtower Society and now is serving as a pastor in Canada, and authored the book, Can I Get a Witness? For those of you who are interested, go on Amazon.com and purchase his book. And so he had this debate just this past Saturday. We air every Saturday at 1 o'clock. Sometimes we do debates. Sometimes we cover subjects relevant towards the cults or even towards Christianity. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, third generation. And so we generally try to cover topics involving cults related to the Jehovah's Witnesses. But this Sunday we're going to be covering a topic which is, of course, still interesting towards Jehovah's Witnesses and other cults, is because the cults generally teach a salvation by works. And there's been a big issue about Hank Hanegraaff, the Bible Answer Man, who is works for a Christian Research Institute and has been the Bible Answer Man for a number of years. After Dr. Walter Martin had passed away, and his joining or becoming a member of the Eastern Orthodox Church has called into question his ministry. And so one of the issues with the Orthodox is they deny the doctrine of sola fide, which is salvation by faith alone. And so we have a panel this Saturday to discuss what is salvation by faith alone. What does it involve? Some Catholics and Greek Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox, any kind of Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, mistaking the Protestant view of salvation by faith alone as some type of easy believism, some type of cheap grace. And so we're going to go ahead and dissect, what do we mean by sola fide? What do we mean by faith alone? Does faith involve works? What exactly is faith as understood by the Reformers? We're going to have Territon Fan from Alpha and Omega Ministries. He's one of the writers there. And we're going to have also Pastor Brock Welgum, who's a former Jehovah Witness and Mormon. And we're going to have this discussion with Nate Beckman, who, of course, founded Healing X Outreach, and dissect what do we mean by salvation by faith alone. Does it teach cheap grace? So that's this Saturday. I want to give a shout out to a couple people. I mean, there has been a firestorm within the XJW community, and Zeb Freestone has lit a fire in the XJW community with his, pardon the French, trolling Kingdom Halls. And I hate to use that terminology, but I don't even think it's quite trolling, because he comes across so soft, so loving, and he opens up with a prayer right after the first song, and the prayer usually thanks Jehovah for the Australian Royal Commission, or thanks Jehovah for the governing body now admitting that they are no longer inspired, or thanks Jehovah for exposing pedophiles, or jwfacts.com. But he does a great job. He doesn't come across very harsh. They kindly escort him outside the hall, but he gets his message. And one of the most wonderful messages he offers, Zeb Freestone, i.e., aka using the Jehovah Witnesses film, what's his name? I can't now recall his name, but he uses the Kevin Bunker. Kevin Bunker is his alias. Kevin, of course, in the Watchtower's last assembly, didn't make it into the bunker with the rest of the witnesses because he had doubts. So he calls himself Kevin Bunker. And all of this, everything is just small little seeds, small little innuendos about the Watchtower Society. And he always ends it, please don't shun your children, we love you. You just can't imagine what a wonderful message that is, and how it tugs at the hearts of possibly witness parents that are right there in the hall shunning their kids. And so Kevin Bunker, i.e. Zeb Freestone, has done a great job. His YouTube is I'm Worldly. And there's another person who's done some work, and I've mentioned her already, and that's Cali Girl 7525, aka Hannah EK, who's protested the convention this past weekend. Check out her convention videos, her actually talking to some of the brothers there that are trying to block her from the crowds, and also in the parking lot attendance where they don't have that much traffic, so she gets a great time to give a great witness. And just recently, Brian Parker, who I think goes by the term on YouTube, Faithful Slave. Brian Parker just issued his first video talking to some witnesses in the park, at a local picnic park, who have a stand, and I just think he did a great job. They didn't shun him, even though he came out and told them right from the beginning he was an ex-witness. And he just did Brian Parker, God bless you, brother. You did a great job. It was just an awesome testimony and a witness to these Jehovah's Witnesses. And I think we're going to see more in the XJW community doing things like this. I'm going to be interviewing some of these people about their methods. And there's one more person it's a woman who was speaking in the trains to the witnesses on their way to the convention. So I forgot her name, so please forgive me, but I'll definitely get you next time. I do want to address one thing. Some people really have an issue with what they call this as aggressive activism. They feel that it feeds into the victim mentality of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And we've gotten already one good report from Zeb on 6 Screens with Rick Farron. And Rick Farron's been doing aggressive activism for many, many years. And I do want to say maybe 2 things about this, the issue of aggressive activism and victim mentality about Jehovah's Witnesses. First of all, I want to say that doing nothing accomplishes absolutely nothing. If you do nothing and Jehovah's Witnesses continue their lives unabated, unspoken to, unconfronted, they will continue as they were in their delusions. It's our job to be a distraction. It's our job to be a caster of seeds to them for change. And it doesn't require harshness. I think that Kevin Bunker has entertained us a little bit, but he's also been quite compassionate to the witnesses he speaks to, whether it's in the kingdom halls, whether it's at in the streets, at their carts, or even in the McDonald's. I think he's done a great job. I think it's important to confront Jehovah's Witnesses. It's important to confront them on a large scale in a Kingdom Hall. Is a great time right after the song. I think he's brought a perfect methodology where he has a large audience that is going to hear him because their ears are tuned for the prayer, and to hear his voice as the prayer. They at first they think it's the brother on the podium saying the prayer, and they lose themselves for a minute, and they're paying close attention to the prayer, and so he has a audience that is listening to him, whether it's for a few minutes. And unless you can think of a silver bullet way of helping Jehovah's Witnesses, no one has any room for criticism. You cannot criticize these methods unless you have some silver bullet method that you've devised that guarantees that Jehovah's Witnesses listen to you and come out of the organization and are free mentally from the cult. Secondly, I want to say about this issue with Zeb, with Cali Girl, who's actually never was a Jehovah's Witness, is a Christian, and Brian Parker, who actually confronted him, letting him know he was ex-witness right from the beginning. And I just think it was just awesome that they listened to him. I think he actually pulled himself away from them. They were ready to continue with their conversation with him. But I want to say this about all of these methods. None of them are fail-safe, but all of them can possibly help Jehovah's Witnesses. We found out from Kevin Bunker that someone was in the hall when he was doing this that was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. And one of his friends, who's an active witness or still a witness in good standing, had a talk with this person who looked up what he said. The Australian Royal Commission was so disturbed by it that they decided they would discontinue their study and not go back to the Kingdom Hall anymore. So he's already having results. We don't know what kind of results we have behind the scenes. All we know is that if you do nothing, expect nothing. The courage that it takes for him to do what he's doing and to doing it, the more often that he does it, it's become more user-friendly for him, more commonplace for him, more easier to know where he's going to go in his conversations. Kudos to Zeb. Kudos to the courageous Christians who do the things like Cali Girl 7525 is doing, because some of us are doing absolutely nothing and we're ex-witnesses. I can say that the only encounters I've had with witnesses has been purely by accident. And thank God that it has happened, but not purposely. I haven't purposely reached out to Jehovah's Witnesses, and yet, even by accident, I've helped some. So just imagine when you purposely reach out to Jehovah's Witnesses, the kind of impact you're going to have. So I just wanted to really say that. Those are two things. You have no room to complain or criticize people who are participating in activism that is confrontational. I know that people say that about Christians and their forms of evangelism that are not cultists. And I've heard people say, I don't like it when Christians share their faith with me. They feel like it's confrontational. Well, as a Christian, we're supposed to confront people. So thank God for Hannah. Thank God for Ultimate Mordecai, the ministry they're doing, YouTube. Anybody who's doing something can really help people. But I really give a great deal of credit to those who are actually on the front lines. You guys are on the front lines. God bless you. And you're setting the standard and you're lighting a fire and many of us. And just imagine how much more we could do if we all were doing this together. And so it's just something to think about. Rick is talking to witnesses at the hotels. Everybody's doing something different, but they're doing something. You're doing nothing. We don't need to hear from you. You're doing nothing. I do want to share a little bit of history. History moment. It's now 13-minute mark. I like to share a little bit of history about the XJW activism movement every now and then, because a lot of these guys that are new, guys like Kevin Bunker, really don't know anything about where this all began, where activism began as ministry. I'll tell you that right now. And I mentioned a couple guys like Dr. Edmund Gruss. I talked about Walter Martin. I've talked about Bill Setner and Joan Setner and many others that we've had. Arthur Bennett is one, I think. People that have written really the first books challenging the Jehovah's Witnesses, challenging the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. Well, let me just share a little information from, you could look up on freeminds.org. It's not really a prominent website anymore, I think. It's not on people's gear, but Randy Waters was a former Bethelite. And Tom Cabine was a Bethel overseer. These are people that I've had on my program. You can just check out archives for that. But Tom Cabine and Randy Waters were involved in the 1980, what we call the 1980 witch hunt. And it really didn't begin with them, but it began with a Spanish translating couple named Chris and Norma Sanchez. And sadly, I've tried to get them to share their story again, but I think that it's been so many years, they just want to really keep on with their lives. They're over this, and that's okay. Sometimes we just get over it, and we just keep on with our lives, and we just don't want to look back. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But Chris and Norma Sanchez were Spanish translators at Watchtower headquarters, and the work that they did had Bethelites actually partaking in communion in the privacy of their rooms. Bethelites having Bible studies in the privacy of their rooms, away from the eyes of the governing body. And this was the critical passage that really caused great dissension in 1980, where they had a huge witch hunt and people were getting disfellowship and people were getting put out of Bethel. Chris and Norma Sanchez were one of those. There's a guy named John Mitchell. I think now it's on sale on Amazon, but it used to be a free paper, but it's really worth its gold if you want to pay for it. It's called "Where is the Great Crowd Serving God?" And this is what caused the great Bethel witch hunt, where many Bethelites all of a sudden instantly became anointed. And right now that's really not becoming an issue, because we're seeing a great deal of increase on the annual memorial. And another thing I want to mention also, what we've enjoyed is from the people that I mentioned, is that we've gotten to see the attendance at the Kingdom Halls and at the conventions, and it doesn't look good. It looks like the things that Rick has said for years about we're making an impact and that they're hemorrhaging members. We finally got a face behind that statement. We've gotten a picture of the impact that our work has done, and the impact that is going to come from people that are really doing, really confrontational activism or evangelism. It's going to make a huge impact now with video and capturing this and really warning people that their doors are being knocked on, or people that they meet at the streets will see these videos and they will see exactly the ugly face behind the people that smile at the doors. And I'll say it again, Jehovah's Witnesses are not nice people. And if you think they're nice people, wait till you become a member and you get shunned by your parents, huh? What Zeb is saying is a great message. Don't shun your children. We love you. That's just, it's damaging. It hurts. As a son who's shunned by his mother, I can say right now, it's taking years to get over that pain, and you still really don't get over it, and you still pray for your mom, but to right now I'm in my latter years, and knowing the condition, not of no thanks to her, of her health condition, knowing that my mom may pass away as a Jehovah's Witness does not bring me any comfort. So anyway, what happened was Chris and Norma Sanchez, they went through this passage, and I'm going to go ahead and pull out this passage right now. And it's Revelation chapter 7, verse 15. And Revelation 7:15, and let me get this over here. All right. Revelation 7:15, this is what it says. Hold on, let me pull this over here so that I can read this passage for you guys. And for you who are Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm sure you're very familiar with this, but I'm gonna read it for you. Let me go ahead and pull this over, and then we can get on with this. All right, there we go. This is the passage that got Bethelites eating the bread and the wine in their rooms. It says, this is what it reads. And speaking of the great crowd, Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. Some translations say shall tent or shall tabernacle with them. But we'll get to that in a minute. Right now I want to pinpoint before the throne of God. The great crowd is before the throne of God. The Greek word is enopion, okay? Enopion. And Jehovah's Witnesses will try to say that that doesn't mean literally before, but more often than not, it means literally before. And if we want to see the context in which John the Revelator reveals enopion to us, I'll just go ahead and give you an idea. Here, and they sung, Revelation 14:3 reads, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne, speaking of the 144,000. The word is enopion, before the throne. Will Jehovah's Witnesses say that the 144,000 is not before the throne, literally? I don't think so. And before the four beasts. If they're before the four beasts we know are in heaven. That's enopion. There's a whole segment of them in Revelation 4. Let me go ahead and go to those real quick, which makes it real clear that enopion means literally before. Here it is. And the smoke of the, in Revelation 8:4, and the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. Are we going to question whether those prayers before God are not literally before him, especially then the angels are before him? Here it says, let's go to it, and it's I think at least 8 times indicating before as literally before. Revelation 4:5. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne. Are those 7 lamps enopion, literally before the throne? Yes. Which are the 7 spirits of God. Verse 6, the very next verse. And before the throne there was a sea of glass. Are we going to question whether the glassy sea is not literally before the throne, enopion? Verse 10, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne. Are the 24 elders not before God, before his throne in heaven, literally enopion? I think that's I can go on and on. And they cast their crowns before the throne. Are they casting their crowns 100 miles away or right there before the throne? Come on now. John uses enopion, before the throne, to mean literally in heaven before the throne. The other Greek word, which had them in Bethel eating bread and drinking wine in their rooms, because Chris and Norma Sanchez were translating the English into Spanish, and they were trying to get the most literal rendering, and they went into the Greek, and this is what they read. Enopion, before the throne, the great crowd. And it says, they serve him, latreo, which is the Greek word, sacred service, divine service. Where else would that service be? But in his temple, before the throne. Now, the word temple there, if you have a KIT, a Kingdom Interlinear Translation, it says divine habitation. God habitats there. That's why it says divine habitation. Who else is divine? God is divine. He habitats in his temple. The Naos. That is the Greek word. Divine habitation. It literally means the Holy of Holies, the most holy compartment. It is in conjunction with the Old Testament temple arrangement, the Old Testament tabernacle arrangement. When the priest would go into the most holy, the Naos of the temple, where the presence of God was, where the Shekinah glory existed, where the where the Ark of the Covenant was, where God's presence was over the Holy of Holies of the tabernacle in the desert, over that compartment as a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. The presence of Yahweh, Jehovah, was there. Naos. And so here we have the great crowd serving God literally before him in his sight. And if you read the Kingdom Interlinear Translation, it says Enopion, in the sight of. And yes, we know God can see all things, but it's meaning literally in the sight of, as in the same sight of the glassy sea is literally in the sight of God, as the 24 elders are literally in the sight of God, as the 4 angels are literally in the sight of God, as the altar of incense, which has the prayers of the saints, and the incense bearer, the angel, is holding it before the throne, in the sight of the throne of God. This is what stirred a witch hunt in 1980. Many Bethelites either left before they were disfellowshipped or were disfellowshipped. This is what began the crisis of conscience for Raymond Franz. If you have that book, if you don't, try to get a copy any way you can. Raymond Franz left Bethel, was disfellowshipped for having a lunch with his friend Peter Gregerson, because Peter Gregerson was disfellowshipped. Here you have a governing body member who's disfellowshipped for having lunch with a former elder, when elders really are admitted to talk to disfellowshipped people, let alone a former governing body member. They had to think of any way to get rid of Raymond Franz. So that's just a little bit of history about 1980 and what happened in Bethel and why so many of them started having bread and wine in their rooms, because they knew that it's not a two-class system, that there's only one hope. Ephesians 4:4 says there is one Lord, one faith, one baptism, and one hope of your calling. There was no such thing as Christians in the New Testament that had an earthly hope as opposed to a heavenly hope, or a heavenly hope as opposed to an earthly hope. That one hope we'll talk about probably in my next video. That one hope was to be with God. David said in the Psalms, as a deer pants for water, I pant for God. The promise Jesus gave to the thief on the cross, torture stake if you're a Jehovah's Witness and offended by the word cross, was, today you will be with me in paradise. There is no paradise without Jesus. That's where paradise is. If you want paradise, if you want landscape, if you want beachfront property, that's the selfish hope of the cults. The Christian hope is that paradise is desiring to be with God. To be wherever Jesus is paradise. So I leave you with that. It's 29 minutes, another 30-minute video. God bless you. God bless the work that you guys are doing. Keep it up. Brian, keep doing what you're doing. I'm looking forward to seeing more encounters you have. You did a great job. And we're all refining our ways to help people see the true light. The light that it brings Christian freedom. For us, Christians, it is Jesus Christ, the only mediator, not an anointed remnant as your mediator, not another man as a mediator, Jesus Christ, the man, the God, the only one, the only begotten God. in John 1:18. God bless you, and see us this Saturday at 1 o'clock as we uncover what salvation by faith is. Bye-bye.